Welcome to the Network Table Podcast. Here's your host, Luke Van Every.
What's up, everybody? Luke Van Every, host of the Network Table Podcast. And I'm really excited today. We have Julie. She is a best-selling author, a speaker, and a podcaster as well. So we're excited to have Julie here today. Get to know her, but don't take it from me. Julie, what's going on?
Hi, thanks for having me, Luke. I really appreciate it. I love your energy, and I'm happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. So tell us, to possibility and beyond, what's that all about?
So I haven't had this question in a long time. The two is the number 2, possibility and beyond is my website. And I came up with the company name and the website name because I was trying to think of some way to capture possibilities, which is why it's the name in the name of my book, which I'm just going to bring up here for a minute, Piece of Possibilities in Perspective. And the reason I was brainstorming names with my husband and my younger son, and we were like, let's see what's out there, et cetera, whatever. And my older son used to say, this is way back, so he's in his mid-20s now, Buzz Lightyear and all of that Disney stuff. Remember that movie, Toy Story?
You're still making
yeah, I mean, it's awesome. So he used to say, Buzz Lightyear used to say, to infinity and beyond. And Jake, our older son, used to say that, but he was little when he said it and he couldn't say it the right way. And it was just a cute little thing. He used to say, beyond be, beyond go. Like, he was so excited. He wanted to say to infinity and beyond, and he couldn't do it. And one day I was traveling, my husband called me. He's like, I figured out what he's trying to say. He's trying to say to infinity and beyond. So we put the 2 possibility and beyond instead of the 2 infinity and beyond. I had a couple people mention that to me that it reminds them of that. I'm like, that's where it came from. And the whole point is, I want people to realize that anything's possible and anything and beyond. If you can dream it, you can achieve it. And it's a very out there kind of, I know it's a very passionate, energetic thing, but it's the truth. And so I wanted it to be the name of my company and the name of my website.
Fantastic. So tell us about the company. What are you doing for others and companies? Who do you work best with?
Yeah, so I have there's 3 pieces to it, and the first one is I have an employee engagement workshop program. So it's 8 workshops that each workshop is a topic in my book. So if someone said to me, well, in companies, clients, that people that want to inspire and engage their employees and get them more connected and happier working every day, those are my clients. And someone might say to me, well, I don't work for a company that's going to do that, or we're not going to have these workshops. So what can I do on my own? And I would say, well, you can grab my book, because everything I talk about in the workshops is in my book. But the book is more on the individual basis. And when I talk to companies, it's how do I apply this to my work, and how do I apply this to what I'm doing every day? I want a promotion. I want a raise. I don't love my work. How can I apply all these concepts to what I'm doing every single day? And that's what I talk about, and that's what I do. Then the third piece, so it's writing in my book, it's the workshops. And then the third piece is the podcast. And the podcast is called Peace and Possibilities, the Peace and Possibilities podcast. And that is all about interviewing people that love what they do, so that my audience, people out there, can actually see that it is possible to do work you love and be happy about it every single day. It is possible. And here's proof, because I'm talking to people every week about it. And here are the people that are living on this planet doing exactly what they want to do. So
I love it. So how long did it take to write the book?
Yeah, I get that question a lot. So
Yeah.
my response is a year, and it's the truth. I mean, I started it in August and I finished it the following September, but that's not me writing every single day. That was me, every single day in June, lots of days in September and October, then pausing for a little bit because I had a full-time job at the time when I started. And then, last summer at the end of the summer, trying to get it done so that I could have it published by the end of the year, which didn't happen until February of this year, of 2021. But so I would say that's not to say it's every hour of every day for a year. I really need to break down the hours to tell people. And what I also say is, people will say it's the book is about 160 pages.
Okay.
And it's not something, it depends on what you're writing about. This is obviously a self-help book, and it's nonfiction, but I would just sit down to write. I would commit to do 2 hours a day. And I would tell myself, I'm going to write. I'm not going to open my email. I'm not going to turn my phone on. I'm going to put it on do not disturb. I can't see it. And I'm going to write. And when I would open up a chapter, I'd had all the chapters. I knew what I wanted to talk about. And I would go to the chapter and I'd say, I'm going to talk more. I need another story from my gratitude chapter. And I would sit down and say, if immediately something came to me about gratitude, I would write. And if not, I would go to the other chapters and look at them and say, is it resilience, connection, curiosity? Like, what else do I want to talk about? And almost every single time something else would pop up and I would just go to that chapter and plug in another story. So I just committed to doing it 2 hours a day, knowing that I didn't want to like force it and just be sitting there and have this writer's block. So I just do it for 2 hours and I wouldn't think about it again that day. And I would just let whatever's going to come to me, come to me. That's what was my process.
So that was the process, but I'm sure throughout that year, there were moments in your life where it was like, I got to write. There had to have been something happened, some inspiration, maybe some non-inspiration that you saw or felt. Give us one of those.
So you must know, no one's ever said that to me. So you must be a writer or know that you're a creative person. And when you get inspired, you have to do that. So if I was not in front of my computer, I had my phone. Obviously, everyone always has their phones with them, or I'd had notes or, a notebook with a pen, and I would write down a quote that I saw. I'm like, I'm going to talk about this. I have more to say about this. Or I'd just get on my notes and I would say, I had one note in my phone and it would just be a constant stream of quotes or ideas or thoughts. Someone would say something to me. I'm like, yes, that is. Or I'd see a quote about gratitude. I'm like, I'm going to put that quote in my book and I'm going to elaborate on it. So yes, that would happen all the time. And that was fun because when I would sit down to write for that 2 hours, I'm like, okay, I would email myself those notes and then I'd have them and plug them into the chapters and say, okay, what else do I want to say about this? Or why did this quote mean so much to me? And that's a great question. And that's a great way to do it because you're not always going to be sitting in front of your computer when you're inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I am not a writer myself. I'm the type of person where I gotta read the page 3 times to soak it in.
That's my husband. Yeah.
My wife, on the other hand, she can sit and write for days. She's one of the most intelligent human beings that I know. So I've seen it in action. Her inspiration comes and she needs to write something down. And she's not a writer either, but her communication.
She likes it. Yeah.
She likes it. So that's awesome. If we want the book, where can we get the book?
So, well, it was yesterday. It's officially an audio book. So you can get it on Amazon right now. There's all kinds of sites. So barnesandnoble.com. A lot of people will say, well, I don't want to buy it on Amazon. I want to go to a bookstore. It's available. And if you go to a bookstore and it's in all the places that you can get a book, you can go to the bookstore and say, I'd like this book. And you don't want to give Amazon your money. You want to give it to a local bookstore. Just tell them the name of the book and they can order it for you.
They still exist. They're still around.
They do still exist and they are important. It's available in some libraries here in Chicago because that's where I'm from, and I wanted to get into libraries because I love libraries. And now it's so Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and lots of other sites like that where you can get retail books. And now on Audible, which is part of Amazon, it's available, but it's also available on this website called Cools or Scripts. So Kobo.com, Google.com, Scrib with a D.com, Chirp Books. Right. So a lot of people will say, like, I don't want to buy it on Amazon. I want to do it somewhere. All of those places it's available.
So everyone just Google the number 2 possibility and beyond, and you're going to have a bunch of options to be able to get it. And read.
Yeah, well, that'll take you to my website. But if you just put in peace, possibilities, and perspective, you'll be able to see all the places it's available to. Yeah, you're right. But if you went to my website, I have a page that has links to where you can get the book. Yeah.
Love it. So that's what we're doing now. And that is absolutely incredible. How do we get to this point? How do you get to the point where we're like, you know what? It's time to write a beautiful book. This is what I do.
Yeah. So
journey up into that. What did you do? Maybe 2 jobs before you were helping companies in this way.
Yeah. So I have been in training and development, learning development, leadership development for over 20 years in corporate America. I've been a software trainer for healthcare, IT companies. I've worked for consulting companies. And all along the way, I was building programs and delivering training to people all over, literally the world. I've been to South Africa, I've been to Singapore, I've been to Germany, I've been, all over the country. And I love training and I love meeting new people and I love sharing and learning and teaching other people. So I just stayed in that realm all through corporate America. But as I was going along, I was, especially virtually, this was several years ago before everyone was virtual. And I was working virtually for the first time, and I was just not feeling connected in my role. I liked the people I worked with, and I talked to people from all over the world every day, but I wasn't connecting with them, like talking like this and sharing things about your life. And I realize it's not necessarily always appropriate in the corporate world, but when you get connected to people in that way, it is better for you. You're more engaged and more connected. So I was just like, what can I do? What can I do to help myself with this problem? And I came up with the idea to talk about topics that everyone could relate to. So it didn't matter if you were in the Philippines, it didn't matter if you just graduated from high school or college, or if you were on your way out in retirement in a company in Chicago. It didn't matter. Every single person can relate to being grateful for your life. Every single person can relate to being mindful and trying to live in the moment and enjoy your life more and be more relaxed. So I just started talking about topics that everyone can relate to. And those topics became workshops, and those workshops became a book. And I loved talking about them, and they helped me to connect to other people at my work and helped me to just feel more connected to everyone else and have everyone else feel more connected to their coworkers. So it was just this win-win. And I knew it was special when the first time I picked a topic and 300 people showed up. And that had never happened in the company before. And this was not what I was hired to do. My boss was like, you can do this like on the side for fun, but this isn't, you have to do your regular job. You can just do this, I'm like, I'll do it on the weekends. I'll create everything I need to create. And I was just like, I'm going to do this. And then when 300 people showed up, I'm like, I'm on to something. And then the next time, maybe it was a fluke. The second time, over 300 people showed up. So I knew that I had topics that people could relate to. And then my sister one day said to me, this could be a book. And I was like, well, what do you mean? She's like, everything you're saying and everything you're talking about could be a book. And that's when the light bulb went off and said, I could do this. And that was probably 4 years ago, but little by little, I just started writing more and then adding more personal stories and meeting more people and talking about these topics, and then taking out the corporate piece of it and adding my personal take to it. And that's how it was born.
I think it's beautiful. It's one of the quotes that I try to live my life by is make yesterday envy today, right? It doesn't matter. Make yesterday envy today. Doesn't matter if it's a Monday, make Sunday envy Monday. So I get what it's about. And I'm definitely going to read the book, and I'm excited about that. And the other thing you touched on was communicating and getting closer to your coworkers. I've made some of the best friends in my entire life that were coworkers, because if you think about it, when we were in the office every day, we were spending more time with coworkers than anyone else. Before I was in the corporate world, I was living that in the gym. I come from a big bodybuilding background, and my gym friends knew more about me than anyone else, because that's where we talked and you got things out. And then when I moved into the corporate world, I was around and sitting close to these coworkers, and we would have conversations not only about work, but you're supposed to check the emotion at the door, but that's not always possible. Sometimes you bring it into the office, and if you're close enough to your colleagues that become your friends, they're who you can speak to, because you're going to see them every day. Now that we're not in that office every day, what are you seeing? How are you connecting coworkers in this virtual world, because we're not side by side? My opinion on going back to the office is always going to have a purpose.
Yeah.
Because you need to be around each other. And it's very difficult, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, to integrate new hires into a culture virtually.
Of course. Yeah.
Is that what you're seeing? Is that what you believe?
Yeah, everyone's struggling with it now, and because they don't know how to, like you said, integrate them. You should get to the office on the first day. You meet some people, you sit down, you get your laptop, you get everyone together, and you maybe meet someone for lunch, but you can't do that now. And hopefully you can do it again soon. Like you said, I believe the office has a purpose, and it's going to be good for people, even at some point, a couple of days a week, to go back to the office. But everyone's struggling with the same things. Like, how do you do it? Well, you have to use the tools that are available. Zoom, obviously Microsoft Teams, all those tools that you can, like you and I are doing right now. This is better than nothing. This is better than check your email and give us a call if you have any questions. This is much better. This is better than the ideal thing would be to be in person. We can't be in person. At least we can see each other's faces and emotions and know if someone is closed off or someone is wondering or if someone is scared, or you can read all that from obviously body language way more than you could with someone just pause on a phone. So I would say this is the best way to do it when I'm connecting people virtually, which is the way I've been doing my workshops, is because this is the only thing that's available right now, is getting everyone on the phone and seeing their faces, number one, because a couple of years ago, Microsoft Teams, and this was all available, but no one turned their cameras on, right? They presented something on the screen, everyone stared at the screen, no one looked at each other. So I love that everyone has to look at everyone's faces now.
Going to a meeting and somebody doesn't turn on their camera, you're like, what's wrong?
Now it's weird, but it used to be the opposite. It used to be like, don't turn your camera on. I just got out, whatever. I just worked out. I went for a walk, whatever. Too bad. Everyone's in the same boat. Let's turn our cameras on. So that's number one. Number two is we all have to make the best of it. So how are we going to, we have to work with what we have. So let's talk about these things and pretend I'm in the office, pretend I'm standing in front of you, and I could, and this way I can still see people's body language. I can still see if they're wondering about something. I can still see what the reactions are to what I'm saying. I can say things like, everyone seems to have a blank stare. Does that mean that what I'm saying is not resonating, or what I'm saying you can't believe? And then, I can always follow up with more questions instead of just trying to teach them something. I can pause and say, like, how is that landing for you? What do you guys think about that? And encouraging people to talk and talk to each other and talk to me, because once your coworkers are seeing you ask a question and reveal something about yourself, it's giving the next person permission to do that. Everyone's scared to initially do that, but once it starts, then you're like, oh yeah, they are real. Oh, they're funny. Oh, I never talked to them before. I didn't realize they had a cat and their cat's behind them now, or whatever it is. I have a cat too. I didn't even know that. We never talked about it before. Like, all these things are still possible, even though we can't be in the office.
It actually happened to me yesterday. I was on a networking call, and one of my colleagues that I do a lot of work with, we do a lot of phone and texting, and he was on the same networking call, and his first reaction was like, Luke, I had no idea you were into astronomy. And I was like, yeah, we got on a call later in the day and talked about astronomy for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It was all because we've done a lot of business together over the years, but we've never really taken the time to really get to know, he knows I have a family and those basic things, but just having my telescope here sparked a whole new conversation. And now we have something totally different from everything else that we connect on. Just
totally. You can't connect until you know those things about people. And I want to go back to what you said about being in the office and spending all that time there. So one of the reasons I wrote the book is because when in my 20s, I was like, what do I want to do when I grow up? I knew I needed to work to support myself. Sure. I didn't come from money. My parents didn't have any money. I had to do everything on my own. So I come from a big family. It's nothing new. But my point is, I'm like, I need to work, right? And I'm going to be spending 8 hours at least a day at a job. I'm going to love what I do. And my husband used to say to me, it's called work for a reason. You're not supposed to love it. I'm like, I disagree. And I'm going to prove you wrong. Because we are all humans, we're going to get to the office, and you're right. We're spending all that time with these people, 8 hours, 10 hours, whatever. Maybe it ends up being 4 or 5 hours a week when we go back to the office. But the bottom line is, you're going to see more of those people than you will of your regular family. The people I talk to, like you know more about me now than some of my siblings as far as the writing process of this book, because I haven't seen them. They live in other states or whatever. We haven't gotten together. So my point is, you're going to be talking to the people that you talk to every day for work are going to know more about you. They're going to talk to you more. And if you can't connect with them, you're doing a disservice to yourself, to the company, and to the other people on your team, not being real and vulnerable and all those other human, because everyone's going through struggles. Everyone's trying to do a good job. Everyone wants the same things, which is a good life, a happy life, a connected, easy, fun life. And you can have all of those things while you're working every day. It's not either or. It's not, I'm going to be at work and then I'm going to have a life. And I think if the last year's taught us anything, it's you have to integrate them. There's no way you can't integrate them, but people think you need to keep them separate. And I think that's disaster. It's beginning of a problem.
It's the beginning of a problem.
If you live your life like that, yeah.
Well, everybody has the chance right now to adjust before we go back. You can make it a point to make that adjustment going back to the office to be more connected. Because let's be honest, we were all in this together in 2020, 21.
Yeah.
Right? So why not stay together? Why not continue to conversate and care
Yes.
about
Yeah. Don't go back to how it was. Right.
For sure. That is fantastic. So you're still putting on the seminars, correct? How often, how do we get involved if we want to join a seminar for the listeners? Tell us a little bit about.
So right now I do them for corporations. I don't do them single one-on-one, but if someone wanted to talk to me about one of these topics, they can email me or go to my website, 2Possibility and Beyond, and connect with me. And I'd love to talk to them more about it. But I would say the best way to get more about it is to read the book.
Beautiful.
Because all the topics that I cover in my workshops are in the book. Listen now to the audiobook, because a lot of people will say they prefer that and this is the best of both worlds, because it's me talking about these topics. Instead of you reading them, it's me reading it to you, and my energy comes through and my passion comes through in that way. So if you're more excited about, you'd like to attend a workshop and you don't work for a corporation that's going to have them, listen to the audiobook. That's what I would recommend. And then I would say the podcast, because the podcast is me having conversations like I'm doing with you now about how people figured out how to be really happy doing work they love and making the planet a better place. So it's possible, and you can get inspired and excited by listening to these people, because they're real people that are all over the country, all different ages, and male, female, doesn't matter. There are people doing it. And so if you need proof of it, or you need inspiration, or you want to know, like, can it be? That's the best place to go, because those conversations are just inspiring, and it's proof. It's proof. So, and I would also say, if someone's telling you like, oh yeah, that's all great, and this girl wrote a book, but that's not me in my life. I had a hard life. So I had a hard life. I wrote a book about having a good life, and I have a good life now. And it's possible. And the people that are telling you it's not, just steer away from them. Wish them well, bless them, whatever you want to do. And then go to the people that are saying to you, yes, you can have that. Like you, Luke, you have your own company now. Like you can have the things you want in your life. Anything really is possible. And if someone's telling you it's not, don't listen to them. Listen to the people that are already have it and are doing it.
Yep. And if you're scared about moving away from them, there's a stat that I don't know if it's completely correct, but I still like it. If 99% of the planet doesn't like me, I mean, 72 million people still do.
Wow. So yeah, if you break down the people on the planet and do the percentage, wow, that's a really cool statistic. I love that. I'm gonna find out what that exact statistic is, because that's a great way, especially for younger people, because younger people are like, what do people think about me? And what if I say this and someone's not gonna like me? And I'm not making fun of it. I'm just saying everyone was there, and you look back, poor thing, like it's not true.
It's okay.
But yeah, that's the best way. Like there's 72 million people still that do.
Yep.
Yeah.
We don't have 72 million people between you and I on all of our social medias combined. It's okay.
Right.
It's okay.
Right.
Everybody's not for everybody. Be
Right.
polite and move on, especially in this virtual world. And this is also my opinion, everyone. I have met so many amazing people around the world and in the United States, everywhere, from being able to do this. I'm in Northern Virginia, you're in Chicago, but we're sitting in the same space. You don't have to stay just in your city and your state. Get out there. You'd be amazed how many amazing people there are everywhere. Talk to them. Meet somebody new every day.
Yes. It's great advice. Don't be afraid. I mean, I have met, like you, because of my podcast, I've almost 100. I have 100 booked. I will be at 100 by the end of the summer.
Ooh.
But that's 100 people that I didn't know before I started this podcast. And this podcast was just a random idea after I just created my business for these workshops and my book. I'm like, the podcast was just like it's literally an idea I had on the train on the way home. I was reading a book, and there was a really cool story about a guy in there who created something he loved because he loved wine and started a business. I'm like, I'm gonna reach out to him and see if he wants to have a conversation with me, and I'm gonna record it, and I think I'll start a podcast. This literally was like on my 30-minute train ride home. I just had the idea. I wrote it down. I took out my phone. I wrote his name. I found the email on his website. I emailed him. 3 people later, I got to him and I said, listen, I think your story is inspiring and I would love to learn more about it. Will you come on my podcast? And he said, yes. And that was the beginning of 100 conversations. So that's just me meeting one person and reading a story about one person, meeting them, reaching out. And it's not as hard as you think. People would say like, oh, well, I don't have this. And how can I email them? I don't have my own website. I don't have my own whatever. I don't even think I had a website at that point yet. I just had an email. I emailed him and then we started a conversation. So that's the other thing. Don't give yourself excuses to pause or to take too much time to get to the next thing you want. Just do one thing, ask a question. And you never know where it's going to lead. But and he said no to me, I already had the idea. So now I was like, I'm going to ask someone else. And I was so excited about it. Someone's going to say yes to me eventually. And that's what happened. I interviewed the co-founder of North Face.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, just
definitely.
CEO of Josh Wines, the guy that started Josh Wines. I just like, I wanted to talk to people that
big fan of Josh Wines.
You're right. His name's Joseph Carr. He's really cool. He's on my podcast. He's probably one of the first 10 or 20 people I interviewed.
Oh, I'll be diving deep into your podcast and take a listen. It's
got a really cool story. Like, yeah, it's amazing, some of these stories. And Joe, you're friends with Joe Rojas, right? He's another very inspiring story and some stuff I had no idea about. So it's like just talking to people about how they started their life, and everyone's got this squiggly line journey. Nothing's ever perfect. People can still make good lives out of it. And that's why possibilities is that concept is so important.
One day I'll tell my story start to finish. It's
yeah, you should. If it's really cool, you should think about writing a book about it.
It's got quite a few squiggly lines in it, but
everyone's
and that's
anyone who's interesting does. I mean, people that just get something handed to them and then they have a company because someone built a company and then gave it to them, that's not interesting.
If you get handed a company and take care of your employees better than any other company, then I'm cool. Then I'm cool with you getting
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Or big.
Yeah.
Joy, this has been absolutely fantastic. Hit us with the name of the podcast again so everyone can go.
Yeah, it's called the Peace and Possibilities Podcast.
Possibilities. Peace and Possibilities.
And it's easy because the book name is Peace, Possibilities, and Perspective.
It's fantastic. Julie, anything else? Did we miss anything that we should know about you?
I would just say, what I really want to say is, if you're not loving your life, that's not the way it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to be miserable. You're not supposed to be unhappy. You're not supposed to hate your job. You're supposed to thrive and be joyful every day and be grateful and love what you do. That's what the universe and that's what living is all about. So if you're not in that space, do something, do anything, any little thing you can. Talk to someone, read something, listen to something inspirational, and just little by little you can have it. You're not meant to suffer and be just blah every day all day. That's not what life's all about. So do whatever you can to feel that way, because what happens is when you get that spark and that engagement and all of the good things that go along with being happy in your life, so many more good things are possible. And that's what makes the world go round. So do whatever you need to do to get there, and talk to people that are going to inspire you. Stay away from the ones that aren't.
Happiness is extremely addicting. Once you have it once, that real feeling of happiness, you have to fight for it every day to get it back, to keep it.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility. That's the goal. Happiness is the goal. Julie, this has been absolutely fantastic. I cannot thank you enough.
I enjoyed talking to you. Thank you. So my final words would be don't waste any more time. It's the one resource you can never get back. Don't waste it.
Do it today. Julie, thank you so much. I really look forward to talking to you again soon.
You too. Take care. Good luck to you. Thanks. Bye.
That was awesome.
For more information, please visit truecompare.peo.com.